EP Enterprise. Rap Entertainment, Manny Green, I see you. Brethren, Blue, Shams and Sin, Black Dot, Kokai, Double.
Special.
My mind's straight, 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 my mind's straight. Had to buck 'em down with my 9mm. My mind's straight, 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 my mind's straight. Had to buck 'em down with my 9mm. Fine, if we gon' grind, let's grind. I'm 9 tenths, 9 dimes, 10 cents, 9 times. If 10 cent times 9's 90% in dimes, then I'm fighting against the 10% controlling your mind. Yeah, I'm fighting against the 9 to 5, controlling your time. Fighting crime, fighting the Pope and 9, patrolling our kind. As a 9, asking for mine, you must be asking for 9. As for mine, no, that's a sign, can pass a 6 for a 9. That's a 6, no, that's a 9. You see, the shape and design is the same, but the value changes if you flip it one time. I'll explain. The value changes if you flip it one time with the exact shape and design. You call a 6 or a 9. 69. The cancer sign is yin, ain't redefined. Out of 10, I'm at a 9. I'm 66, better 9. Okay, 999 and plus to a key, a 999 plus a buck from a G. Right angle, 90 degrees for like the 90s to me. 89 and the 93, we gon' gas it and dry the beat. See the circle ringing the trees, current coil. For energy, current coil. For DNA, and 9 volt in the battery. 9 lives, 9 lives, 9 pilots divide. Take a square with 4 sides but 9 boxes inside. Let's call it tic-tac-toe. X and O's, no actual lead. 3 months for 30 days, be a 90-day guarantee. A state of emergency, in a state of emergency. 9/11, a 911, no denying the urgency currently. For currency, some music, 9 to pay rent. Keep it 100, at $99.99. 9 cents, dressed to the 9 in my size 9 shoes on my wave, like a 1980s breakdance moves on my grind. Dressed to the 9 in my size 9 shoes on my wave, like a 1980s breakdance dude. My mind's straight, 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 my mind's straight. Had to buck 'em down with my 9mm. My mind's straight, my mind's straight, my mind's straight, my 9's straight, my mind's straight, my 9's straight. Had to buck 'em down with my 9mm. Wa-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-dang, wa-da-da-da-dang.
So special.
Nine-year-old girl got maced by the police. Her. Man.
Get in the car. I don't care what you demand.
Come on, man, look at it. This is a little girl. She's 9 years old. Don't nobody feel no type of way. You got these people running around with stimulus checks acting like ain't nothing going on. Where the gangsters at? I'll go. Agobi. Ile mokyo. Eshua mokyo. Oguna mokyo.
I would write this shit in fire. This is a war cry. This is Sankofa, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Southside, Chicago, Compton, California, Roosevelt Projects in Brooklyn.
They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we get back. 4 times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 One time for the baby that's black. Two times for the lady that's black. Three times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate like that. I'm a king with a crown that's facts. She a queen with a crown that's facts. I'm a G, she a G that stacks. I'm a G, she a G that match. From my G's in the back that trap. Be a G, get back this tax. See, we a feet who need this facts. And we'll teach TC this facts. So when you see we eat the snacks. If we see the seat, this cats. Be a key to the free that latch. Be a key to a seed that hatch. From my G's in the back that trap. Be a G, flip that, that's racks. See a LLC, get that. And start a business piece, it's that. If they shoot back like that. 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 One time for the baby that's black. Two times for the lady that's black. Three times for the way we get back. Four times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 One time for the baby that's black. Two times for the lady that's black. Three times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate like that. See the crown where it's at, this hat. But we gon' lay it down flat, this smack. Fall asleep where you at, this snap. See an open hand slap, this smash. What we even at, all's mishaps. I'm right, even that's all mismatch. Spit this, spit that, spit facts. Kick this, get that, click clack. If they shoot back like that. 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 One time for the baby that's black. Two times for the lady that's black. Three times for the way we get back. Four times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 One time for the baby that's black. Two times for the lady that's black. Three times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate. I'll rap for those who came before me. Let the legacy live through me. My ancestors giving honor, you dig? Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. I'ma crown me king. They told me do this for the sisters who gotta work that job. She
9-year-old girl got maced by the police. Uh-huh. Fire. Man.
Get in the car. I don't care what you demand.
Come on, man. Look at it. This is a little girl. She's 9 years old. Don't nobody feel no type of way. You got these people running around with stimulus checks acting like ain't nothing going on. Where the gangsters at? I'll go. Agobi. Ile mokyo. Eshua mokyo. Oguna mokyo.
This shit in fire. I would write this shit in fire. This is a war cry. This is Sankofa, Rwanda, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, Southside, Chicago, Compton, California, Roosevelt Projects in Brooklyn.
They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we get back. 4 times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate like that. I'm a king with a crown that's facts. She a queen with a crown that's facts. I'm a G, she a G that stacks. I'm a G, she a G that match. From my G's in the back that trap. Be a G, get back, that's tax. See, we a feet who need this facts. And we a TTC this facts. So when you see we eat the snacks. If we see deceit, this cats. Be a key to the free that latch. Be a key to a seed that hatch. From my G's in the back that trap. Be a G, flip that, that's racks. See a LLC, get that. And start a business, please, it's that. If they shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we get back. 4 times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate like that. See the crown where it's at, this half. And we gon' lay it down flat, this smash. Fall asleep where you at, this snap. See an open hand slap, the smash. While we even at all's mishaps. I'm right, even that's all mismatch. Spit this, spit that, spit fast. Kick this, get that, click clack. If they shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we get back. 4 times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate. I'll back for those who came before me. Let the legacy live through me. My ancestors giving honor, you dig? Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. I'ma crown me king. They told me do this for the sisters who gotta work that job. She just trying to raise her babies while she goes so hard. Tell her crown me king. Tell her crown me king. Tell her crown me king. I'ma crown me king. It's for the brothers on the struggle locked inside of that cell. Just know I'm trying to free your mind, get you out of that jail. Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. I'ma crown me king. You know the children are the future, teenage boys and girls. Get your money, start a business, then take over the world. Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. Tell them crown me king. I'ma crown me king.
I am the niece of exploitation on a rice and pancake box. Come to collect the royalties for Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. I am refreshing the bones, a witch, a root worker, a sorceress, a priestess, a gangster.
They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we get back. 4 times for the Eddie could crack. They shoot back like that. 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 1 time for the baby that's black. 2 times for the lady that's black. 3 times for the way we make stack. Revolution like hate like that.
Things stiggling.
The same guy that taught you money, checks, bricks, Tupac, and
their businesses and buying back the block. And let's open our own business so we'll have some place to shop. Start investing in ourselves, is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Every hustler that could hustle, start investing in your spot. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we buying back the block. My brothers buying back the block. Sisters buying back the block. My sisters buying back the block. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we buying back the block. My OGs buying back the block. Youngins buying back the block. My youngins buying back the block. Start investing in yourselves is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. If we gon' get this cash and chop, this bullshit's got to stop. All this his beef, her beef, this and that, man, let's just get some guap. Dr. Swat ain't got the digi, really, let's invest the stock. I suggest we cash some checks, it's really just a building block. See my circles talking cheese and bread and dough like pizza box. So let's get some cheese and bread and dough for our own pizza shop. And we never needin' your fast food when auntie making plates. Cause that's fish and fries, you get 2 sides of drink and slice of cake. The mechanic shop, the barber shop, the hair and nail salon. On the corner store or grocery store, let's get some season farm. Cause when summertime, when school let out, we started up a julep house. Then we passed it to the kids to show them what this bit is about. Used to grind the two was out the Buick with the music clout. Now he with the wife and kids to show you what them Jews about. 10%, $100,000 is in stacks. So all you need is $10,000 to buy a house for 100 racks. Wait, all you need is $10,000 to buy a house for 100 racks. Yup, all you need is $10,000. Think of that with your income tax. Shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. And let's open our own business so we'll have some place to shop. Start investing in ourselves, is what we do, cause they do not. So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Every hustler that could hustle, start investing in your spot. Don't you see these vacant houses and you see these vacant lots? So we shutting down their businesses and buying back the block. Yeah, if you getting money, stop buying back the neighborhood. Buy up these houses, these empty lots. Stop buying buildings, opening businesses. Stop buying land, property. You know what I'm saying? If you want to multiply your choppy, I don't care how you getting your bread. Shout out to my peoples up at Be Healthy. You know what I mean? Why we ain't got no black grocery stores?
DJ Nani Non.
Since the beginning of time, civilizations have asked the questions. What is the human soul? How do we know it exists? Do we control our reality? Or are we actually living within a dream? What truly happens when we pass away? Join 2 of the world's leading experts in higher consciousness, and discover the truth about the soul, and the path to enlightenment. This is The Living Soul.
Welcome to The Living Soul. I'm your host, Kathy Gibson, and today we're going to talk about why do we pray? The short answer for some would be because of lack of good health, lack of finances, lack of relationship, just don't have enough of what you want. So you pray, asking for the things that you think you need. For others, that would be to have a better relationship with God, to pray for the planet, to pray for a loved one, to pray as a reverence, to have that communication with the divine. I'm a preacher's daughter. I grew up in the church, and I was around prayer all the time. We prayed in our home, we prayed when we ate, We prayed for just about everything. And when we were in church, I saw hundreds and hundreds of people pray over all the years that I was in church. And seemingly, what most people pray for is a better life. They want more. They want God to hear their prayers. They can't understand why their life hasn't changed. They come to church every Sunday, they pray their prayer. The next week comes, same thing, and over and over again. They can't figure out why their prayers aren't being answered. Today, we hope with this show that you'll see that there's something to a prayer. There's a resonance that is formed depending on how serious you are about what you're praying for. You have to look at the things that you want and what you're willing to do to get it. Most people want an instant answer. They are lacking in funds, so they want money overnight. They are lacking in the relationships and they just can't be patient enough for that right person to walk into their lives. They are lacking because they don't feel worthy of God's love. And because of that, they feel ashamed and refuse to pray. And then there are those who are angry because their prayers haven't been answered. They approach God with anger and contempt in their heart. And they're asking in rage, why aren't you answering my prayers? Well, if you were a divine deity and someone's asking for help, but in your heart you have contempt for them, more than likely that prayer is not going to be answered. There are certain things that you must do if you're going to approach God in that manner. And I know for myself, and I will talk more about this in my next session, about how I prayed and how my prayers evolved over the years. I would ask God as a young person for certain things. Of course, at that time I was in school, I wanted better grades. I was an athlete, so I wanted a better performance. But as I began to evolve, I wanted a better relationship with God. And I worked on that. My prayers changed. I learned better prayers, more divine prayers. And that has worked for me. So stay tuned.
Why do we pray? That's the topic of our show today. When I was a kid, we went to church a lot. And during the times that we went to church, one of the main functions or features in the church was the deacons would pray every Sunday. And different deacons would take turns saying prayers. Some of them would pray for just a few seconds, and some of them would pray 10, 15 minutes. And frankly, the children would make fun of some of the deacons and how they prayed. We'd also sometimes make fun of how the pastor prayed. We saw that the prayer was often as much entertainment as anything. Because when the preacher started praying, when the pastor started praying, when the bishops, when the deacons and everybody started praying, quite often they forgot what they were saying. And the words had nothing to do with an actual prayer. And so as a kid, I grew up not really taking prayer seriously. We prayed, as my wife said, we prayed in front of Thanksgiving dinner. We prayed at Christmas time. I prayed before tests because I wanted good grades. We prayed in front of baseball, basketball games, football games. And prayer was just something that you did. But I often felt that we really didn't expect the prayer to have an effect. It was almost perfunctory. You do the prayer and then you start the game, but you don't really expect the prayer to have an effect. And then I grew up. And when you grow up, life hits you differently. You become a much more serious person. And one of the first times that I really saw a prayer do something that I can attribute directly to the effect of the prayer was when I wanted to go to college. And nobody in my family had ever gone to college. And college is not cheap, it is very expensive. And so I prayed, I got down on my knees, I put my head on the floor. It was cold, and I prayed for a college scholarship. Well, I'd gotten a lot of offers. but none of them really came to the offer that I could take because they didn't really cover everything the way I needed it. We were poor. We put the P in poor. We were so poor that we couldn't even ask for money from the bank. They wouldn't even think about giving us a loan. So when I prayed for a scholarship that not only covered travel, books, food, tuition, all of it. I needed one that covered everything. A week later, I got a letter in the mail from a school that I ended up going to college at that covered absolutely everything, just the way I needed it. And so I broke down crying because I knew that somebody, some power had heard me in my need. So from that point on, I started to take prayer more seriously. I read the Bible every day. I began to pray to a being that I knew was listening. So the concept of why do we pray really depends on the need of what you have and what you want to do with your words and what you want to do with the concept of prayer. So in this particular show, we're going to talk about why do we pray and what prayer is and how prayer can help you in your life. Thank you for joining us.
Oracle cards are sets of cards with pictures and meanings that allow one to interpret the messages of higher powers. These cards allow one to learn to trust their own intuition, as well as receive guidance from the supernatural. We have created a unique deck that helps one to examine the names and descriptions of the forces who are trying to speak to you, in the voice of the Eternal. These cards possess the lost rune, Venthenher, which will help you connect your outer consciousness with your inner consciousness. These cards will allow an individual to perform their own oracle reading. They provide you with a physical message and response from higher powers, in regards to all aspects of life, including money, love and romance, family, and much more. Each reading one performs tells a story. These cards will indicate whether a situation is inspired by forces of darkness, or that of higher powers. There are 52 cards in the deck. To begin, shuffle thoroughly. Choose 5 cards, and lay them down as drawn. Count the number of photos on the cards. A number between 0 and 10 indicates extreme negative energy. A number between 11 and 20 indicates moderate energy. A number between 21 and 25 indicates strong energy. Finally, a number greater than 26 indicates extremely positive energy. Cards with forces of darkness have negative values per image. The 12th trump card indicates the highest blessing from the world of the celestial gods. Purchase at www.tybro.com. Prayer is one of the most mysterious functions that we perform on a day-to-day basis. Prayer transcends religions of all kinds, including Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. All of these religions use prayer as one of their main components of faith. There is a new field of science called neurotheology that studies the effect of religion, prayer, and meditation on the brain. The early results of the studies show that the brain may be hardwired to respond to prayer and meditation. These studies also suggest that visions that occur during prayer and meditation may result from contact with something that is higher than human consciousness. The question often arises, do animals pray? There is a story that arose from China regarding a pig that escaped from slaughter and ran directly to a Buddhist temple. The pig assumed a prone position, as if praying in front of the temple, and its life was spared, as it was considered to be a sign. There is a dog that lives in Thailand that prays on a daily basis with the monks. Does prayer connect us with something higher than ourselves? Some prayers are designed to petition God for things that we need. Some prayers are designed to adore God for simply being in our lives, as an aspect of beauty and divinity that we can only ponder through the process of praying. And some prayers are designed as a form of meditation and thanksgiving. When we pray, we seek a sense of oneness with the universe. We cannot clearly define this force, but we seek it, and feel it, without understanding. The need to connect with this force transcends our ability to fully comprehend why we pray.
One thing I've learned over the years is that the more intense a prayer is, the greater the need, the changes in your body. You'll start off praying with your hands up, maybe standing up. And as it gets more intense, the greater the need, you start to sit down and pray. And then the greater the need, then you start to end up on your knees. And if it's really serious, then you go all the way down. And I've learned that the intensity of that prayer, the honesty in your heart when you say a prayer to God, then you'll start seeing some changes in how quickly you'll get an answer, changes in how your situation will change, because it's real. It's not a one-off. You're not just asking for something just because. You're asking for something because you need it. And I think that need really changes how your prayer is answered. And when you learn a prayer that has divine power, when you memorize that prayer and you say that prayer, it connects you to the divine world in such a way that the energy of the prayer itself will change your situation. And we hope that at some point you'll learn what those divine prayers are and how you can learn those prayers to help yourself in your life. But I realize that the more intense the need, the difference in the body posture, the difference in your heart, and the faster the Creator will answer you for changing whatever it is that you're asking for.
One of the things that really surprised me about the research into prayer, and if it actually works, is that very consistently we see that the brain changes when you pray. Now, the frontal lobe is an area of the brain that we know contributes to intelligence, higher reasoning, thought, et cetera, et cetera. But why would it change specifically during prayer and when we're thinking about God? And that has puzzled me for a very long time. Are we hardwired to talk to God? And is our brain hardwired in such a way that the brain responds to specific thoughts about God? Why would the frontal lobe change more than any other part of the brain during prayer? Are there areas in the frontal lobe that change shape, size, and function to respond to something, a concept that we only think of as a spiritual or supernatural concept? Maybe the concept that we consider to be God is a real being, and that there are some scientists in this field that we now call neurotheology that look at God as the structure of the brain itself, that God is not separate from the human mind, and actually that God is the mind trying to understand and figure itself out. So when we pray, it may actually be that the universe is talking to itself, trying to understand how to derive things that it needs from itself to help itself. That may be why the brain changes. That may be why our reasoning and higher intelligence functions and factors of the brain change. I don't know. We'll see as we talk more.
You know, we have both spent a lot of time around prayer. We both grew up in the church. So we were around a lot of what we would call characters in the church who kind of, you can time it that they were getting ready to say their normal prayer every week.
You knew who was going to, how long they were going to pray. You knew what they were going to say. You knew who was going to start shouting and dancing. And in many ways, I mean, I just hate to say it, but it was almost making fun of prayer.
It was, I call it infotainment.
Definitely was infotainment. You knew just how they were going to sing, just how they were going to dance. And it was almost like it was orchestrated.
Mm-hmm.
Every Sunday. You
Mhm.
knew exactly what was going to happen and almost to the second when it was going to happen.
Absolutely. They did it every week.
Every week. You could go to a church now. Steve Harvey made a whole career of making fun of people singing and dancing and praying in the church, and he was absolutely
He
right.
was right.
There
He
was
right.
no, there was no lying in what he was saying. It's
Mhm.
absolutely what happens. But unfortunately, that is how most of us are introduced to the concept of prayer.
Mhm. I think when people pray and they get an answer, it changes them. they take prayer more seriously. And I think those who pray and don't get an answer, they're the ones who start doing that infotainment type of praying. And because of that, you see a mass number of people leaving the church. They're leaving the church because they feel like their prayers aren't going to be answered. And we're going to devote an entire show to why people are leaving the church. But
And people are leaving the church, not just in the US, but all over the world. The fastest growing religion in the world is Islam now. Because people are looking for answers. I read an article from the New York Post a few weeks ago that said that there are more people who identify themselves as pagan and witches than there are Presbyterians in the US now.
That's
People
incredible.
want to know things that work. They want to not just have prayer be something that's infotainment or something that you do because you're at a sporting event or because you're at Thanksgiving or because you're at church. They don't want it to be something you just give away. They want it to be something that works. I think we pray because we know that we're connected to God. We know that there is something, a being that created us. We also know that the universe is an intelligent place. And we want to figure out how to communicate with it and not just be here, live, work, and die. We want to actually have meaning in those times, those years that we're here.
We want to feel like there's communion between us and God. And most of our teachings, we always try to send people within because God's within all of us. But most people don't want to go within. And so they think that if you go to a church or if you are around certain people, that the communion between yourself and the other people and God is stronger. There's a passage in the Bible where it says, where there are more than two, he will be there also. So they use that as if they gather with more people, that God will hear their prayer better. But a lot of times, I know when I was growing up and I would pray to God, I would ask for certain things. But in the beginning, when I did that, I was trying to get God to give me more talent, more ability. I figured if I could use this talent and get really good at it, then He would bless me with more talent. And I got that from my dad, who did a sermon on it. And it worked. And so every time God would give me a talent, I would try and perfect that talent so that He could give me more talent. And obviously, I became very talented as a young person. But that's one of the reasons why I prayed. I got a quick answer, and so I kept praying. What about you? How did you use prayer when you were growing up?
I remember the first time that I used prayer for myself was when I was playing baseball. And I started out in baseball as a center fielder. And then the coach moved me up to first base. And he saw me throwing the ball very hard back to the catcher. He said, throw it as hard as you can. And sometimes the catcher would take his glove off and kind of move his hand because he said, that hurt, Mitch. And I said, okay. Well, he said, throw it hard. And so he said, Mitch, get up on the mound. Let's see what you can do. And I threw 19 consecutive strikes.
So I take it you became a pitcher?
I became a pitcher. But during the games, I found that it's different throwing a pitch to a person who's at bat than just throwing to your catcher. And so I started praying to myself right before I threw a pitch. And in the first game that I pitched, we won that game. I struck out 8 consecutive people. And the last person that got up hit a ball, went to the center field, and I was praying. Center fielder was not a good center fielder. It could have gone over his head. He could have dropped it. Any number of things could have happened, but him catching it. But he caught it. And from that time on, I would pray before every pitch to myself. Nobody knew that, but I would pray before every. When I had the glove up like this, looking out like that, I was praying. I wasn't looking for signals or anything. I was praying. And we ended up doing very well that year. And so for me, it may have just been, a psychological thing. It may have just been a boost to my well-being, but I felt that prayers made me pitch better, that they made me a better athlete in that way. So I think it really helped accentuate the gift that I had.
I think if you pray to God or a higher being or the universe or whomever you might consider someone who will answer the prayer, just be honest with what you're asking for. Allow it to be a need instead of a want, and you might find a difference in getting an answer from this being. Uh, when we were praying together, I find that there's a great resonance between us when we pray to God, and that a lot of things happen more quickly for us when we do that together. So, what we do together is better than what either one of us can do apart. And for us, that works.
There's a definite energy there. There's a definite energy in the power of prayer. We pray because we want to connect with that energy that I believe created us. And I think that answers the question as to why we did the show. Why do we pray? Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.